But first, big story today. An education watchdog group is sounding the alarm on the Southern Poverty Law Center as it faces federal charges over alleged multi-million-dollar fraud schemes involving extremist groups it vowed to fight, like the KKK. Defending Education out with a new report warning that the SPLC is still pushing its far-left agenda into classrooms all over the country. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Kayleigh McEnany, and also joining us today, Molly Line, Fox News correspondent, Rosanna Scotto, Fox 5 New York anchor and host of the Underground Economy on Fox Nation, and Todd Pyro, Fox and Friends First co-host. Now, the report alleges that the Southern Poverty Law Center's program called Learning for Justice, formerly known as Teaching Tolerance, is integrating SPLC's radical agenda into K-12 schools to kids as young as kindergartners. According to the report, the fall 2018 issue of Teaching Tolerance featured an article titled, "What is White Privilege Really?" The program's social justice standards includes a set of learning outcomes for students called Anchor Standards and Domains that are divided into 4 groups: identity, diversity, justice, and action. Now, the group calls on educators to teach students to recognize biased speech and calls on kids to plan and carry out collective action against bias and injustice. And school districts across America were quick to implement those materials. The website for the Association of Alaska School Boards links to that document we just showed you. And on the other side of the country, in Rhode Island, one equity group wrote an audit that pushes for SPLC material to be included in the curriculum of one school district in the state with a suggestion to start that in kindergarten. A popular program called Second Step that is used in many school districts in America said that it curated materials from Learning for Justice. And according to the report, at least one across 150 school districts in more than 42 states, including our nation's capital, are using or have used the SPLC-aligned materials. Now, we've reached out to the Association of Alaska School Boards and Second Step. We have not yet heard back. Todd, what struck me about reading this was not only the breadth of infiltration, but the depth of infiltration of these materials curated for every age group and really the indoctrination. This is not just lightly tapping on the kids' minds. This is a full-force playbook for, frankly, communism.
And so is it any wonder that we are seeing things that 10 years ago we would have thought not possible? A Mamdani becoming the mayor of New York City, a Democrat socialist like that. Men in women's sports to the level that we've seen. And the big picture, Americans hating America. This all comes back to their ability to really, to your point, Emily, get granular, get in the minds at an early age and allow this to fester. So instead of these schools teaching the basics, math and English, and raising test scores, these test scores are plummeting. Instead of teaching the next generation of leaders, what are we teaching, Emily? What are we seeing? The next generation of these people that we cover, the protesters who are anti-ICE, who are going after our brave men and women in uniform, who are doing things to subvert America. If I am a parent, and I'm going to go do this immediately after the show, that's not a joke, I look to see if my school district is teaching this. And if they are, I start a movement and say, this can't happen. I want my kids learning traditional values the way every American generation has up till this point. This cannot happen. Otherwise, we lose our country.
I also note, Kayleigh, that this dovetails in with the conversations we had when the fraud allegations first came to light about the SPLC, namely that, for example, the group that I cited here, they were labeled as an extremist group by the Southern Poverty Law Center before. That meaning all of these districts and states have just relied blindly on anything the SPLC puts out or says without any research, any double-checking, any of their own thought analysis at all. They've been fed this.
You're right, and it's time for some scrutiny, some much-needed scrutiny. Look, kids should absolutely learn about injustice, slavery, racism, but they shouldn't learn about it via a curriculum from a group, the SPLC, that was sending money to these various extremist groups. I think there's a problem with that. I think everyone should have a problem with that. When I look at some of the concepts being taught, anti-racism, Black Lives Matter, gender ideology, queer theory, white privilege, white supremacy, whiteness, and transgenderism, I immediately wonder, what if this was in the kindergarten curriculum? Because some of this was in kindergarten classrooms. My daughter's learned about MLK Jr., what a hero he was, and she should learn about that. But these kind of concepts, you say this to a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, gender theory, getting into the sexual domain, are they being taught this in kindergarten? Not only that, there are 2 school districts that I was reading, according to this whistleblower report, in Cambridge and in Yonkers, that were teaching pre-kindergarten SPLC curriculums. Now you're getting into like 4-year-old territory where many of them don't even know how to write their name yet. So I would love to know what of this is in the young kids curriculum. And I wish people did research, did journalism. The New York Times, I went on the New York Times, I typed in SPLC. I didn't see anything about this. What I did see was SPLC headline, how the Southern Poverty Law Center drew the ire of conservatives. Get with it, New York Times. Do some digging, do some journalism like we are endeavoring to do here. But instead, the New York Times did have a headline, Florida creates a more conservative U.S. history course to rival AP, referring to DeSantis' curriculum. The problems that he focuses on American exceptionalism, Western civilization, and emphasizes the nation's Protestant religious heritage. All things that are part of history. Newsflash, those are called facts. We need journalism here. I want to know what's in the young kids' classroom. And good for you, Todd, for following up on what's in your classroom.
Indeed. And Molly, the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, she had a bleak assessment of our nation's schools and teachers from this morning. Here, watch.
The most important thing we can do for our children is to make sure they can read and do math. We have failed them. When you have only 30% or even a little less of 8th graders and 4th graders that can read at proficient level, we are failing our students, and we need to change that.
And Molly, you overlay those statistics we can pop up here on the screen of the woefully inadequate math and English, from the nation's report card percentages. And when you overlay that on what we're learning, how they were spending their time, so now they know how to, be part of the activist collective or whatever those words were, but they don't even know how to add.
And I think you get to a great point there. For instance, in the Cambridge schools, we were talking about the influence of this organization on the Cambridge schools. This is on the Health, Physical Education and Wellness page on the Cambridge Public Schools. It talks about over the course of the 12 years that the children are in public school, anti-racism, social justice, racial equality, working in collaboration with the CPS schools, community partners. This is on the Health, Physical Education and Wellness page of that particular public school. Now, Cambridge is very diverse, and they're weaving in, say, for instance, different kinds of dances, throughout the course of the middle school curriculum from around the world. That's great. But when you look at the focus of health and physical education being on anti-racism, social justice, now they've woven in things like emotional learning and social learning throughout the course of the school year. So you wonder about the impact this organization is having on not just the key things like math and reading, but also woven into curriculum as simple as something like health and physical education. And then this lawsuit is absolutely astounding when they're reaching out and talking about paying people that have infiltrated these organizations and getting money from these organizations. And you think about the web of influence the SPLA has, not just like almost acting like a law enforcement organization on the side, meanwhile also influencing curriculum in schools across the country. What are they precisely, and how far are they trying to reach?
And being hidden in the health and wellness, Rosanna, if you were a parent and didn't know better, didn't know that, you have to be a detective about your child's education, then you sort of assume, oh, great, that's the wellness category, they'll be fine, not realizing perhaps they've been indoctrinated as young as 5.
Parents have to become activists now. I mean, you see it now at more and more school board meetings, parents trying to take back their schools from these activists who are taking control of the curriculum. I keep thinking about, why aren't these kids brought together under citizenship and humanity? Instead, they're dividing. You're in the oppressive category. You're in the privileged category. Meanwhile, these kids can't read or write. We're seeing the numbers. They're abysmal. It's distressing. Less than 40% of American kids can't read or write in the 4th grade. Are you kidding me? I went to Catholic school. It was all about reading, writing, arithmetic, and of course, religion. But I mean, we need to get back to basics.
We do. Well, hopefully this is the tip of the iceberg of the awareness now, and we need that transparency and the awareness to proliferate as deeply as this indoctrination has up until now. Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.